Right, so today I've come to Inglesham, which is on the border of Wiltshire and Oxfordshire. It's just near Lechlade-on-Thames, and I've come to see St John's Chapel in Inglesham. It's a village so small that they have a parish meeting instead of a parish council, because everyone can turn up. And this is a favourite spot of the poet John Betjeman and the artist William Morris, and we're going to go and have a quick look and see what made it so special to them. As we walk up, I'll note that there is a very strong smell of cow in the area. There's dairy farms all around this church. It's not an unpleasant smell, but it is quite present. This is the church. As you can see, there's no bell tower to it. There are bells, though, in what nowadays I tend to think of as very Mexican style. So there are two bells in what's known as a bell cot. The body of the church is medieval, built in 1205, putting it right at the height of the Middle Ages. It was on a Saxon core, and there is a couple of little bits of Saxon art inside. Right, there's the source of the cow smell. That's actually just where the River Thames is. That spot there where the cows are gathering, those are the banks of the Thames. So this church would have been very close to it, probably just outside of flooding range. Like many churches, two doors to get inside. There we go. And we're in. It's a very big space on the inside. It really feels quite magnificent. And in terms of a sense of scale, this doesn't feel much bigger than the chapel in Chisbury. In fact, it may even be about the same size. But there's a lot of evidence of medieval paintings in here. That's quite astounding. From what I've read, these are some remains of a medieval English doom. A doom would be a painting of the end of the world and the day of judgment. Hence the phrase, meet your doom, meet the judgment of God. And here we can also see the consecration rings that I was looking for in Chisbury. They have stayed much, much clearer here. See, that's what they would have looked like when they were new. Sign of the consecration, which is really nice to see. Lots of art. I would have loved to have seen this when it was at its height, when it was all decorated. And this gives a much better sense than Checkenden ever did of how heavily decorated these churches would have been. There's remnants of art on almost every wall. It's staggering. And this is a piece of Saxon art. This is the mother and child, Mary, Jesus. And it used to be used as a sundial, and it was brought inside and put into the church at some point, possibly to preserve it, possibly just because they thought it was beautiful. It actually reminds me quite a bit of more modern art. There's a depiction in St Paul's Cathedral in London, in fact, which is quite abstract, of Mary and baby Jesus, and I wouldn't have thought... I could almost see that artist, the more modern abstract one, having seen this, because they have similar forms to them. The Tomb of an Unknown Knight. These pews are called box pews because of their shape, quite obviously. They're 17th and 18th century, and the way they usually worked is that each family would have their own box that was theirs, and the entire family would sit inside, which is possibly why some boxes are bigger than others. Bigger family, bigger box, which is quite nice. This little feature here would have been an hourglass holder, and that would have been used to keep time of the sermons back in the days before clocks. And the church was very important for keeping track of the hours, and hourglasses were an important component of that. These screens are roughly Tudor, 14th or 15th century, so either towards the end of the War of the Roses or the beginning of the Tudor period. Whether they replaced an older one, I don't personally know, but it's still quite fun. And it shows that this was a living church. It continued to be used for a very, very long time, really up until the Victorian period, when not many people still remained in the parish, and those that did were willing to travel to the nearby village of Lechlade. Yeah, so this has been quite a fabulous little church to visit, giving a sense of what Chisbury might have been like had it not been abandoned. And we only have it thanks to the work of William Morris, who realised it was becoming abandoned and worked to save it. Otherwise it probably would have been torn down or simply left to rot away to dust without anyone looking after it. As it is now, even though it is not administered to by the Church of England and is not a place of regular worship, it is still consecrated ground, and it is looked after by a charitable trust that looks after a lot of churches that are no longer used. So it's great to see it in such great condition.